Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Jesus loves you. So I want to talk to you about some pretty wild, amazing stuff right now going on. Okay? 2025, I believe, will be the start of the Great Tribulation and the rapture. There's a lot of signs going on politically, okay? With the setup of the beast system, AI takeover, right? War with Iran, war in the Middle East, okay? Trump saying that he's going to basically militarily attack Iran any day now. He says very soon, okay? All that aside, we're going to talk about signs in the skies. Check this out. And you guys should look these things up. There's tons of videos about them. I just, binged on the videos and seemed to really get a hold of it, and I want to just do a quick video about it. Okay. So September 23rd, 2017, you had the Revelation 12 sign. Once in a 7,000-year period, this very rare sign in the heavens, right? Star constellation, planets, etc., arranged itself. And it's directly out of the book of Revelation, chapter 12. Okay, look it up. It says that a woman, I said, behold, a great sign in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet and 12 stars on her head. Okay, that exact scenario happened on September 23rd in 2017. What is that? What is the woman? That's Virgo. That's the Virgo constellation. Okay, the Bible told us, great sign will appear in heaven, this constellation sign. What is a sign in heaven? That means, right, God told us in Genesis that the sun, the moon, the stars, planets would be as signs for you to know the signs of the times and the seasons, right? This is what we should be aware of. Okay? So on that day, 2017, that happened. Virgo's there. She's clothed with the sun. She has the moon at her feet. And she has 12 stars around her head. Okay? All these different planets and stars. Okay? From my understanding, I believe it was Jupiter was in her womb in retrograde for like maybe 14 months, and then it was born through her legs. Okay? Now, 33 days before this, you had the first eclipse over America, which formed an X, and we all know about this, right? Because 7 years after that first eclipse, we had the second eclipse, which just happened, right? Which was the biggest event in America where people traveled somewhere, from my understanding, okay, to see this thing. So 33 days before the Revelation 12 sign, you had this eclipse. Exactly 7 years later, you had another eclipse, which formed an X over America. Okay, stay with me. It gets even better. The Revelation 12 sign, which is pretty much the most biblical sign we've ever had. Okay, that put the rapture watcher community on alert. They thought, hey, maybe the rapture is going to happen and the tribulation is going to happen. Well, guess what? It didn't happen, right? Do you think it was still not significant? Maybe it was. Maybe, just maybe, it was a warning. A 7-year warning that the tribulation would start, which would bring us to where we are 2025. And the way things are looking, doesn't it obviously, aside from those things, look like 2025 is the time of the tribulation? Absolutely. You guys are watching, you know, right? So now we have signs in the heaven confirming that. So basically you had the rapture watcher community for 7 whole years watching and waiting and getting ready up to this point where we are in 2025. Okay? Now, in the Bible, it talks about Joseph and the dream that that Pharaoh had, of 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So wouldn't it make sense that before the 7 years of famine, the 7 years of tribulation, in our case, what we're talking about, that there will be 7 years of plenty, but it would be a warning, you would know. The entire rapture watching community was all about this. Okay, I just joined a few months ago. They've been watching it for 7 years. Okay, now here we are, 2025, 7 years later, and it's looking like the tribulation. Now it gets even better. Check this out. This year, during the fall feasts, okay, when Virgo, the woman, is in the sky again, you have all these asteroids in the constellation, in her body, which basically spell out the 70th week of Daniel. You have asteroids named Daniel, weeks, okay, Cyrus, Darius. If you guys know the book of Daniel, you know these words, you know these terms, right? Cyrus was the first king who said that Jews could rebuild their temple. Darius was the second king who said it. Donald Trump is going to be the one to rebuild the temple, to give out that call. The Jews have been saying for years that he's the King Cyrus. They have his face on a coin with Cyrus on the other side. Why? Because they believe that Donald Trump is going to be the one to give the decree, again, for the Jews to rebuild their temple. Okay? That's going to happen. He's the builder. Dude, people have been talking about this forever. Okay? So we already know this. So the Jews are looking at Trump as a Messiah figure. They're looking for two Messiahs, a political one and a religious one. He's the political one. He's going to do everything for them. Here we are, okay? He just took $4 million away from Columbia University because they're protesting Israel. He's doing it. He's the Messiah for them. Okay? He's one of the two Messiahs. They're waiting for their spiritual Messiah, and he will show up, and that will be the Antichrist. Okay? So now you have this constellation this year, 2025, in September, during the fall feasts. All these names of these asteroids, which basically spell out the book of Daniel. More specifically, Daniel's 70th week, which is the 7 years of tribulation. This very thing, guys. Guys, look into this, okay? Look up End Time Watchers. Hold on. Okay, look up End Time Dream and Vision. Third Temple, Heavenly Sign 2025, beginning of Daniel's 70th week. Okay, they have a bunch of videos on there about that. Okay, also look up Generation 2434, considering 2025, have we had a 7-year warning? That's where I'm getting a lot of, both those videos, those channels are where I'm getting this information from. Also, Dr. Barry has a video out right now. Dr. Barry Awe, A-W-E, the only rapture restrainer left behind, the 2025 rapture sign. That's another good one, okay? Stay tuned, stay with me on this because there's more. And you guys should watch those videos because I might be missing some details, okay? There's a lot of information on this. So you got those asteroids in this constellation, okay? During the fall feast. Now, on the Feast of Trumpets, which is the main day where most believers who believe in a pre-trib rapture are waiting for the rapture to happen, you have an asteroid named Rise. Does that connect to anything? Yeah, the rapture, right? So this Rise asteroid is in the womb of the woman in retrograde, which means it's moving, right? It's staying in place, but moving. In her womb. And guess what? It births through the legs. When? On the Feast of Trumpets. You can't make this stuff up. And remember, we had a 7-year warning, a 7-year sign in the sky, the same sign basically, back then. Well, I'm sorry, the same constellation. Okay? Some other asteroids that you have going on there. You have Angel and Irene. Huh. Well, what do you remember from the book of Daniel with an angel and someone from Iran? Because the two are like this, and then they seem to go head to head. They seem to be about to fight. Does that ring any bells? Right? It should. You have the angel Michael who stands up, right, and opposes the king of Persia, Iran. Okay? Historically, Iran was called Persia. It's the same country. So the king of Iran, when Michael is opposing him, it's actually referring to the principality, the demon, the angel in the spiritual realm. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities in high places, right? So Daniel stands up and he fights against this Iranian angel, which is in charge of the prince of Iran. So these two asteroids are going head to head in this Virgo constellation. Irani and Angel. Okay? So like I said, guys, watch the video because I might have missed some details. Now, even more. Let's keep going. You guys know about the blood moon lunar eclipse on Purim this year, right? Okay, here we go. A blood moon represents warfare in the Bible. Okay? The Bible says that the moon would turn to red blood in Matthew and in Hosea. Okay? This is happening on Purim, the only Jewish feast that is based on a war. When what? Iran went against the Jews. Okay? And God's people were going to be annihilated, and he protected them. Look at the story of Esther. Okay? So this Purim, we're going to have a blood moon. When the Jews commemorated this issue, a tribulation in a sense, we're going to have a blood moon and an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, on that day. Okay? At the same time, Trump is saying we're about to go to war with Iran. Iran, Persia, those are the things in the sky. Okay? That's the story of Esther. Okay, now keep it going. That's a triad. That thing there, that blood moon, is 3. There's 3 of them. We're in 2025. We're in the middle. We got one there. 2024, there was a blood moon on Purim. We have it this year. And in 2026, there's another blood moon on Purim. You can't make this stuff up. Okay? Now, some people might not be interested in this. It doesn't mean anything. You've been predicting this forever. Yeah, maybe it means nothing. But at this point, with that many details, you got to think, maybe it means something. Maybe God's trying to warn us something. He told us in Genesis that the lights in the sky would be as signs for us. It's all laid out. The rapture community's been watching it for 7 years. They saw something really important in the sky, straight out of the book of Revelation, which I want to read for you guys. Okay? And they've been watching. And here we are in 2025 on the brink of war with Iran and everybody else, the brink of tribulation. It's so clear, you know. In a sense, I feel like you don't even need the signs in the heaven, but the signs in the heaven back up what's going down here on earth and vice versa, right? You looked at the signs in the heaven and then you look, well, what's going on here? Everything is there. Everything is laid out, guys, that the Great Tribulation is about to happen this year. I believe that March 13th, something big might happen. Maybe we're going to see major war. Maybe war will escalate before the peace deal comes out, because once that peace deal comes, that's the beginning of the 7-year tribulation, right? When the Antichrist will break the peace deal 3.5 years in, right? You guys know the timeline, right? All right, here we go. Revelation 12, the woman and the dragon. Check it out. And a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. This is what happened on September 23rd, 2017, 7 years ago. A 7-year warning that the tribulation was about to happen for the community, for the believing community, for the Jews, okay? For people to wake up. Verse 2, she was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. Okay, so it's talking about giving birth. We saw that Rise asteroid she's going to give birth to the Rise asteroid on the Feast of Trumpets, okay? Which is the day that no man knows the day or the hour of. This is wild, guys. Verse 3, and another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 7 diadems. Okay, so this is the beast system. Okay, this is Satan. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth. That's the angels, right? 1/3 of the angels followed Satan onto the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. Now, this could be many things, but let's talk about a few of them. One could be, this is talking about the beast system that is ready to devour Israel. Okay? It could be, right? The woman giving birth to Israel. This also represents Christ in the first coming, right? The woman being Mary or the church, because a woman represents a church in the Bible, giving birth to the man-child, because it says later that he will be taken up. Okay? So she gives birth to Jesus, and the devil's there ready to devour him, what? Through the Roman Empire, right? Which said, hey, let's slaughter all the babies 2 years old. They were trying to kill Jesus. Okay? So there's different interpretations. Verse 5, she gave birth to a male child. One who is to rule. That's obviously Jesus. One who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Right? That's our Lord. That's our Messiah. He will rule. Every knee shall bow. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne. That's obviously Jesus, right? And the woman fled into the wilderness. So now the church, or Israel, because some people see the woman as Israel, other people see her as the church. So the woman fled into Israel, where she has a place prepared by God in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days, or 1,260 days, okay? This seems to be talking about the tribulation, when Satan will, and the beast system will persecute the Jews, and they will flee into the wilderness, or Petra, right? And it says it's been prepared by God. And in Petra right now, there are thousands of Bibles ready for them. Petra is like the most perfect place for militarily to be, okay? I believe there's like water supplies. It's like everything you need. It's really hard to get to militarily, so I believe they will be protected. The true Jews who, for 3.5 years, 1,260 days, will be protected. The 1260 days before that, the nation of Israel will accept this false antichrist, and they'll think he's good. Okay. So let me finish reading here. 7. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown out, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. For they love not their lives even unto death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath. Why? Because he knows that his time is short. This is talking about the Great Tribulation period, I believe. He knows his time is short. He only has 7 years. Okay? To deceive the whole world. To make them worship him through the Antichrist, through this system, taking his mark, right? Worshiping his image. Right? So that time is going to be the greatest deception ever. So great that even the elect, if it were possible, they would be deceived. Okay? Verse 13, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. Who's that? That's the church, or Israel, depending on how you look at it, right? If you don't believe in dispensationalism and you believe in replacement theology, you would think that's the church. And the church has to go through the tribulation, right? Because you're a post-tribulation believer. If you believe those things, you believe God is done with Israel. And it's just the church now, right? And so this means that Satan and his system will go after the Christians. I don't believe that. I believe the Christians will be raptured up. The church will be taken up. The woman here is Israel, not the church. Okay? Israel gave birth to Jesus, not the church, right? And the woman symbology was mostly from the Old Testament, which talked about Israel. Okay? So, and here we see that the dragon, he pursues the woman, Israel, who had given birth to the male child. Okay? So the Jews will go through the tribulation, not the church. And Satan will be pursuing the Jews, not the church. If you look at that verse, right, when Jesus warns about the tribulation period, where a lot of post-tribbers like to throw that at us, you have to go through the tribulation. Look, Jesus says here. Okay, but what does Jesus say there? He says, pray that your flight not be on the Sabbath. Do we follow Sabbath? Do Christians follow Sabbath? Mostly not, right? I follow Sabbath. Some do. Many do. But in a whole, do you think Jesus would be saying that to Christians? Or is he saying that to Jews? Well, we know Jews follow Sabbath. Seems to be more in favor of the Jews question, right? Now, in that same part, he says, right, when you see the abomination of desolation where it ought not be, right, flee Jerusalem. Is he talking to the church or is he talking to Jews in Jerusalem? Seems very specific. Now, we know that part of this already happened, all right, in 70 AD. That was a first fulfillment of this scripture. There will be a second, okay? When the Antichrist, 3.5 years in, will persecute the Jews, Jesus is telling them to flee Jerusalem and what? Go to the wilderness. That's what he says. He says, don't take anything. Pray you're not on Sabbath. Pray you're not pregnant. Pray it's not in winter. And get out of Dodge. Right? Don't even take anything from the rooftop. Just go. Right? He's talking to the Jews. How could he be talking to us if he's talking about Jerusalem? Following the Sabbath? I mean, don't you see the difference? You have to rightly divide. See who he's talking about. He's talking to the Jews. Okay? During the time of Jacob's trouble. The Jews are Jacob, not the church. The 70th week of Daniel. Daniel says, this time is for my people. Daniel was a Jew, not a Gentile. Okay? So the church is already gone at this point. 14, but the woman, Israel, was given 2 wings of the great eagle so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness. Okay? Protected in Petra, potentially, to the place where she is to be nourished for a time. That's that Petra area. And, okay, let me repeat that. She is to be nourished for a time, end times, and a time and a half. What does that mean? A lot of people, that can be confusing. That means 3.5 years. A time is a year. times is 2 years, and a time is a half year. That's 3.5 years. AKA 1,260 days, which is what they mentioned in verse 6. It's the same thing. The Bible often will say different ways of saying the same thing. That's what we have here. Okay. We have 3.5 years, we have 1,260 days, and we have time, and half a time. Those are 3 ways of saying the same exact thing. 3.5 year period of tribulation. Okay. Moving on. Boom, 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 boom. Verse 15, the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with the flood. This is persecution against Israel. But the earth came to the help of the woman, and the earth opened up its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Okay? That means God's going to protect them, potentially with the land itself. That's the way I see that verse. Verse 17, then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And he stood on the sand and the sea. And then we get into chapter 13, where it talks about the mark of the beast system, right? So there you go. So the dragon becomes furious with Israel. She goes to make war with the rest of her offspring. Perhaps that's the Jews who are still in Israel, who didn't leave, who didn't take that warning. On those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus, or have the faith of Jesus, it says in other translations. So these seems to be believing Messianic Jews who wake up halfway through the tribulation because this Antichrist sits himself in the temple and claims that he's God and demands worship. They're going to go, whoa, that's not, and they've been following him for 3.5 years. That's not Messiah. And they're going to realize, Yeshua's the Messiah. We missed it. And finally, he will bring back his people. We know there will be a reconciliation. Jesus said, you will not see me again until you say, you Jews will say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Okay? So I'm going to end it there, guys. A lot of jam-packed information for you there. Read Revelation. It's a great book. It's the only book in the Bible that pronounces a blessing on you. If you read it out loud. Okay? Follow what it says. And if you have any trouble with demons, read that book out loud, even if it's just a chapter. Play it on your phone loud. Demons will flee. Experience. Myself and many others who've had spiritual warfare situations, put on Revelation, they're gone. Okay? So God bless you guys. Keep coming back. This is a serious time to be alive. It's a wonderful time. Okay? The Bible says that the prophets looked to this time and they were kind of envious of those who would live in it, and we're here. So like Lauren Daigle says, these are the days. Right? These are the days we've been dreaming of. So don't look away, because these are the days, right? We thought we'd never see the sun through the dark skies, but all the signs say that it's looking up. These are the days. These are the days we've been dreaming of. All the signs say it's looking up. Yeah, for the rapture. On the earth, signs looking down. Tribulation, right? But for us believers, the signs are looking up. Right? Jesus said when you see all these things start to happen, not when they have already happened or halfway through, or he said when they begin to happen, look up, your redemption draweth nigh. We're hopeful about this. We're not depressed. Don't get me wrong, I do get depressed about this stuff, but I'm starting to really change on that, and it's starting to show me, you know what? There's really nothing to be depressed here. It's all joy. Count it all joy. Right? Another great line from that song. If it's not good, then it's not over. Right? That's what she says during the bridge, and repeated it over and over. If it ain't good, is it good right now? It ain't good. That means it ain't over. Because when it's over, when it's finished, guys, it's going to be good. It's going to be pure goodness. And that's how you know we're still in the struggle. We're not done yet, because it's not good. That's why when people like preterists say, "Oh, we're in the 1,000 years of peace. We're in the millennium now. Christ is ruling, and it's 1,000 years of peace." How can you believe that? With everything going on, how could you ever in a million years think that you're selling that kind of short? No, we're talking about a real 1,000 years of peace, and it is going to be great. The New Age is going to sell us a false one first with the Antichrist. That's what they're going to pronounce. Oh, it's going to be 1,000 years of peace with this amazing guy. Quick thought on that, and I'll end. Universal basic income. I was watching a video about that this morning. Maybe I'll give a shout out to the guy who made it. But he was saying, you might think that's crazy, okay? But there have been people who've been talking about this forever, and I'm talking tech people. Not like liberals, like millionaire, billionaire tech people. And they're like, yeah, we should have a basic income, okay, for everybody. Universal base amount. And they tried it in a few countries. They did some lotteries, and people were able to get in there, and they basically got like $1,200, I think it was, or $1,500 a month. Basic income. So everybody got it. Boom. Flat rate given by the government.